Hello everyone, Duplex here with another Android Netrunner video. My first video post creation and control. I will try to call out some of the new cards as we go through the game. I am using my Kate Darwin deck with heavy modification since creation and control. A bunch of different cards have been swapped out or changed, and in general the deck has been tightened up for more competitive play. So I do mulligan my first hand. I try not to mulligan in friendly games, but in this case I'm sort of putting a deck together in hopes of taking it to a tournament, so I want to see how well it can perform. And here you can see I'm playing against Hasbiroid. I believe it is not custom biot, is his neck? No. Is it cerebral imaging? I guess so. I guess it must be cerebral imaging. I can't quite tell. Anyway, so we have a bit of a delay here at the beginning of the game, as I believe my opponent got a phone call. And he kind of just puts things on pause. I do have the game sped up for that reason. There's a couple of places where the game slows down for one reason or another, so I thought it would be good to just speed things up. I'll try to keep up as we go. He does a fairly standard opening turn, ice R&D and HQ, then ices up an empty remote, tosses down a bunch of others just for future use, and sends it back over to me. I like getting in Magnum Opus in my opening hand. I like to see some other cards too. In this case, Magnum Opus is better than nothing, and after a mulligan it can often be nothing. So, and playing catch up for econ is definitely a problem for this deck. So I do have a quality time held back as well that I want to use, but I want to empty out a little bit of my hand first. So you can also see I've got a Battering Ram sitting in there. He takes 3 clicks on his turn to just gain money. Back over to me. You can see I have a Battering Ram in there. That's meant as backup in cases where my Darwin isn't able to do the job against some of the new, especially the new big barrier ice in general. So in this case I don't have much use for it yet. So I quality time into a bunch of cards. Now the key thing here is, well, the 2 big keys are of course self-modifying code, which I will later use to turn into a Darwin. Self-modifying code is in the deck mainly to turn into Magnum Opus and Darwins. And E3, and E3 against a Hasbiroid deck is so important, as I'm sure most people who have played with it know how useful it can be. So E3 goes out with my discount, and I believe I click into some credits. He spends again 3 clicks to gain money. So I gain money on 2 clicks, then toss out my Replicator for discount, costing me 1, and my free self-modifying code, which I will use on his turn in just a second, so that I can retain my Kate discount. So a bit of a pause here as well. Goes. He's got, looks like 12 credits. Yeah, and he spends, is it all 3 actions? He spends, 2 actions to gain, and then installs something in that remote, passes it back to me. Now before I go, on the end of his turn, I take my self-modifying code for effectively 4 credits. I turn it into a Darwin, which makes it only cost 1 more than it would normally without Kate, if you get my meaning. So, and then the beginning of my turn, if I had any money, which I don't in this case, but if I had any money, I could immediately apply a virus token to Darwin. But in this case, I don't have the cash, so I just go ahead and earn some money with click 1 off Magnum Opus. Then apparently think for a long time. I'm in pretty good shape here because of the fact that I have a personal touch in my hand and a Replicator out. That's such an important combination for this deck. having all 3 personal touches on Darwin allows me to effectively, even after a virus wipe, to have a strength 4 Darwin. As long as I can pay to put that first virus counter on after a wipe, he's strength 4, and strength 4 is pretty good against lots of different ice. He takes his turn, throws out another data fort with a piece of ice, and then adds an upgrade. I'll mention this briefly, and you'll see it later. Just as a point of etiquette, when you're playing on Octagon or in real life, don't stack cards like that. In real life, it's not as big a deal because advancement counters are harder to hide. And on Octagon, if you're hiding a card under another card, then advancement counters can just be hidden, and you don't want anybody... Well, I'm not going to accuse anybody of cheating. I just wouldn't like to think that somebody would accuse you of cheating because you accidentally had a card hidden under another one. Just stick them side by side. That's where they're supposed to be. There's nothing in the rules to say they need to be kind of tucked together or whatever. Side by side is perfectly adequate, and it's just respectful for your opponent. So you see here, I double up on personal touch on Darwin. He's now strength 3. That only cost me 3 credits because of Kate's discount, and I have a third one back in my hand because of Replicator. I've also got a daily cast, so I think at this point I decide to click it for Opus on my third, and for the fourth throw out a daily cast. It's daily cast, one of those new creation and control econ cards. It's just kind of handy. It's sort of like a free Opus click at the beginning of your turn. It's cost 3, which means I guess after 2 turns it sort of pays for itself. In the end, it only goes for 4 turns, but having the flexibility of having money coming in at the beginning of your turn without having to click into it is kind of nice. So I'm a bit of a fan of it. In some cases it's saved me when I've had a slow start early game and haven't had an Opus out. It can kind of make up for that a little bit. So the third personal touch goes down, and that makes Darwin's strength 5. So at this point I'm in pretty good shape. He's able to beat lots of different ice. I have an E3 out, which means that even the big ice that I can't beat on HB, I could probably click through if I was running early, which you pretty much always need to against Hasbiroid, just in case. I've got a bunch of kind of junk back in my hand, except for the Plascrete, which probably isn't as big a deal against Hasbiroid, but you never know, and I do end up playing it in a little bit here. Here's an example of how hiding advancement tokens is not necessarily the greatest. Now he does move that upgrade a little bit, so I can hover over it and find out, but it's nice to be able to just look up. Oh, and then he moves it back. So it's nice to be able to just look up and see how many advancement tokens are on any given card. So I'm not going to harp on it. Please be respectful when you're playing against people online, and just because you know a certain way of playing doesn't mean they do, and it's a 2-player game. You should both agree on how things are going to go, and yeah, just don't stack cards. That's all there is to it. So, my turn, I throw another counter down on Darwin, bringing him to strength 6, and then I end up playing my Plascrete, clicking Opus for 2 credits, and then clicking Opus for another 2 credits, and then sort of stupidly running. Now, I'm not sure what possessed me to do this, other than the fact that he had 12 credits, which isn't necessarily tons for huge ice, but in this case it turns out to be an Eli, so my gamble pays off, and you can see that I score an agenda as a result. I accidentally only pull 1 card, I believe. I don't know if I changed it to 2 or not, but I did end up with an agenda off the top there. So here he's advancing cards to some number that I can't tell because of the fact that it's hidden, and I think here I ask him to move. Yeah, here I ask him just to move it, and then he does graciously, which is really all it needed, but in the first place it's just kind not to do it. So it turns out it has 3, and then he kind of does something wonky here, but again, why is side by side not allowed? Just put them side by side. Anyway, I decided it's probably a good time for a Maker's Eye run on R&D. See what he's got there. I've got 10 credits back and a strength 7 Darwin. So yeah, so it costs me, what is it, 5 credits to get through both pieces of ice, which is not too shabby. And it scores me another agenda, another 2 points for me. So at this point, he's going to score. You'll see he scores this agenda. But it's around this time that people start looking at that Darwin and going, man, I got to clear those virus counters. And this is part of why I love this Darwin deck so much, because once you have 3 personal touches down on him, and you're looking at a base strength of 4, a whole turn to clear, to bring my Darwin down to what is effectively a base strength of 4 doesn't seem like a really good deal. But people have to do it. You have to do it, especially if you've got 1 or 2 pieces of ice that are guarding key servers that are higher than strength 4. You kind of need to wipe those virus counters. So now Darwin's at 8, and we're starting to run out of ice that he can't beat. So there's a bit of a pause here. And I start my turn. Here we have the feedback filter, one of the creation and control cards I put as a singleton in my deck. It goes very well with Plascrete Carapace as just damage prevention, and I've won since. I don't know why I did that run. There was obviously going to be anything there that I didn't already see. But anyway, it's just a stupid mistake. So I've won a number of games against Jinteki aggro decks because of that feedback filter. The ability to stop net damage just for money is very nice. So he ices up R&D a little bit more, knowing that I'm going after that, and I consider playing my feedback filter, apparently. But knowing that it's unlikely that he's going to have a lot of net damage, I think I opt to check that out. I figured it was a Hadrian's, but it could have been an Ice Wall or something. So I decided to force him to res it at least. He's not doing too bad for credits. He's got 11 credits after resing. So, but it's pretty much fair game for wherever I want to go. I hit his HQ, get past, get in, and score myself yet another agenda. So all in all, well worth it. And a turn with 4 cards and 4 credits. And he's continuing to advance out there with nothing really in it. But I mean, that's kind of why commercialization is it's a beautiful card to have, especially when you have the free advancements. I get my Datasucker out. Now this is the Datasucker, especially with an unguarded archives, is really the way you can beat those advanced ice, the advanced ice decks. The Datasucker, the ability to use Datasucker, if you have the money and want to run 3 times on an undefended archives, you can effectively, it's like the same as boosting Darwin, almost like boosting Darwin for power tokens or virus tokens in a single turn, because he can reach that much higher. But at this point, Darwin's at strength 8, and if I use a Datasucker, I can hit strength 9 without too much difficulty. So here I decide 9 credits. Yeah, he's got another wall. 2, 4, 6 plus 1 more from the E3 is 7. Gets me in, and that wins the game. Thanks for watching. I hope everybody has had lots of success with creation and control. I will post my deck list in the comments or in the description. I'd love to hear your comments and feedback on the video. You like it, you hate it, whatever. Like and subscribe if you do like it, and I will see you next time.